Will democracy survive in the next couple of years?
And essentially, we are the same.
And there are so many needs that Minnesota has.
What people are saying they need right now.
Access to democracy is made possible by donations from the following organizations. Thomson Reuters, a global company with expertise and insight to unravel complex situations in the areas of law, tax, compliance, government, and media. Their worldwide network of journalists and editors keep customers up to speed on relevant global events. Thomson Reuters, the Answer Company. Crutchfield Dermatology, a full-service treatment center in Medi-Spa in Eagan. Their goal is to help you look good and feel great with beautiful skin. With service built around courtesy, dignity, and respect, Mayo-trained Dr. Charles Crutchfield personally treats each patient and is acknowledged as one of the nation's best physicians. Firefly Credit Union, with locations throughout the Twin Cities, has proudly served Minnesotans since 1925. Firefly guides its members forward by delivering customized financial solutions to improve their lives in all aspects of banking. Firefly Credit Union, they light the way with life illuminated. Edina Eye, Physicians and Surgeons, a division of Twin Cities Eye Consultants, has proudly served the Twin Cities for more than 55 years. Now in 7 convenient locations. Using the most advanced technology combined with human touch, Edina Eye offers comprehensive services but dedicated specialists committed to excellence with innovative procedures and expertise for the most advanced eye care.
Hello, and welcome to Access to Democracy. I'm Michele Engdahl, and I'm today's guest host. I'm excited to talk to Ann Bailey today. Ann is the Executive Director of DARTS. DARTS is an organization with a mission to create connections that enrich aging. Hi, Ann.
Hi, Michele. Great to see you.
Nice to see you too. So let's talk about aging. Apparently, we all age 1 year every 365 days. But why am I surprised by the age I am? Why is that shocking to me? Why, when we have a birthday, is it like, what? I can't be that age. So what's going on here?
It's nature. That's all it is nature.
Well, we're going to talk about nature. We're going to dig into some demographic information. We're going to talk about what aging looks like in Dakota County. I want to tell you a little bit about myself as we get started. I serve on the board of directors for DARTS. I'm a pretty new board member and really excited to serve in that capacity. I'm familiar with DARTS. I've been a volunteer for years, and I am impressed by the role that they play in our community. And, you know, as I think about aging and my own self, I also think about, of course, my parents and my mother-in-law and how they're doing great, but you get a phone call and they're talking about the obituaries and they're talking about somebody slipped and fell and broke her hip. So I'm entering a phase of my life where my children are getting older and they're, you know, getting on their feet and settled. But I feel like I'm about to start sort of a new caregiver role. So I'm sure I'm not alone in that. And so I'm excited to talk through that with you, Ann, because you're an expert with your own personal story and in the role you play. So let's talk about you, Ann. How did you find your way to DARTS?
It's interesting, and it's interesting when you talk about your family and thinking about your parents, your in-laws, you think about those stories. And my parents were a little bit older when they had us kids, so our grandparents then were a little bit older. And I remember kind of my parents taking care of my grandparents, but it's not seared in my brain. And about the time that I hit the age of 40, my mom had passed away and my dad had Alzheimer's. And I grew up in a little town in Wisconsin, not so little, Manitowoc, which is right on Lake Michigan. Highway 10 ends at the car ferry slip. And that's 321 miles between here in Minneapolis, Apple Valley area, and my dad's house in Wisconsin. And I know it's 321 miles because I drove there the first time when he was all wound up that he didn't pass his driver's test. And then I drove there every other weekend for 4 years. And that's why I know that mileage. And for me, the journey was Dad was pretty good, but Alzheimer's continued to progress. My sister and I both live up here, and we were at the point where we knew Dad needed to move. My sister wanted him to move now. Nothing short of a crane and a crowbar was going to get my dad out of that house. And I remember distinctly driving around Apple Valley where I live, like some answer was going to jump out of the streets of Apple Valley, thinking, how do I get Dad to move? And I pulled into the Apple Valley Senior Center. And I'm going to say it was a woman who came over and talked to me as I was looking at the rack of literature. And I always say that I had on my face the look. I think we all hit a wall and we get that look on our face. And she said, how can I help? I said, I got to move my dad and he doesn't want to move. And she looked at me and she said, have you called DARTS? I didn't grow up here. I didn't know what that was. And for whatever reason, I actually made the phone call. Other people had said, call the Alzheimer's Association. They probably would have been greatly helpful, but I didn't do that. But I did call DARTS. And with their help, we found a place where we could move Dad when he needed to transition in a hurry. And they helped us with key decisions throughout the remainder of his life. So that's how I came to know of DARTS. I, to this day, struggle with calling myself the word caregiver because I always say, well, Dad didn't live with me. That's not what a caregiver is. I was going home every other weekend. I was paying his bills. I was scrubbing his toilet. I was taking him out to dinner. We were getting him out in the community, grocery shopping. Guess what? I was a caregiver. And so when you look at the support that DARTS can provide people, it was that wise ear. It was that counseling. I remember so vividly towards the end of his life when he didn't want some of the treatments that they wanted to provide for him. And we called DARTS, my sister and I talked to the DARTS person, and they said, have a family meeting with everyone who cares for your dad at that memory care unit and tell them together, you guys agree, and tell them together what he wants. And I think it really helped my dad's last month, which wasn't good, go really quickly. So it was a necessary support. So then I became a donor of DARTS because all that caregiving coaching came to me for free. And an opportunity arose to join the board, and I was on the board. And then in 2015, I joined as the president. So it's been a privilege to lead this group of people as we look at ways to care for older adults in Dakota County and around Dakota County, not just limiting.
It's such a powerful story. It's such a familiar one, right? Really typical. Maybe the 300 miles, that maybe isn't typical, but there's other barriers, right? There's other hurdles that people are getting over. And I bet you look back on it and you're like, I don't even know how I did it. I don't know how I did my day job. I don't know. I don't remember, how did I get it all done?
Right. Well, absolutely. If you'd have said, Anne, you're going to work in technology services at Target and drive to Manitowoc every other weekend to take care of your dad, you're crazy. I can't do all that.
Right.
So,
something would have had to give, right?
Right.
There has to be a trade-off. Yeah.
But you slip into it. And I think I was fortunate. You know, I really look back at that time and say, I was fortunate. I was fortunate to be able to spend time with Dad while he was still good. And really fortunate that I had supports available and that my dad had supports available. There are a lot of people who go through this without those supports. So, yeah, it's really interesting. The services that DARTS provides are services that we provide to help people remain in the home of their choice for as long as possible. So we talk about the caregiver support, which is that opportunity to learn a little bit more about the resources, whether it's directly for the individual or it's for the person directly supporting that individual. But there are services like cleaning and doing small repairs and yard work, those services that just give you the energy to do something fun. If it helps you to have DARTS clean your home so that you still have the capacity to go have coffee with your friends, obviously not in the COVID times, but you know what I mean. If just getting a ride is what you need, we're there for you. And then that helps you to do other things so that you can continue to live in the home of your choice for as long as possible. You mentioned our mission of creating connections that enrich aging. Those connections are the intergenerational connections that volunteer groups can bring. It's an older adult volunteering in a classroom. It's the older adults who come and volunteer here at the office. We had a volunteer named Hap, who when she turned 90, she said to me, "Anne, I've been looking at my 10-year plan." And I said, "That's remarkable, Hap. I don't know what I'm doing this weekend." And she said, "My 10-year plan is that I want to stay busy. And I've volunteered here at DARTS for 20 years. DARTS helped me when I was at a bad place. The man she was engaged to died of a heart attack, so she was left kind of high and dry at the age of 70 without a life partner. And she said, I was at a really bad place and I came here to volunteer and it gave me a purpose. And for 20 years, you've given me that purpose. I can fly on my own now." She'd moved to assisted living. There were committees at the assisted living that needed her leadership. She said, "It's time for me to move on." And DARTS made that possible. That's what we're here for, is that purpose, that sense of belonging, that sense of I have a worth. We all want that, no matter if we're 2 or if we're 202.
Okay, so I want to be 90 with a 10-year plan. Like that is
Isn't that great?
That is great. That is great. And that must just fill up your cup when you think about what am I doing? Am I in the right place? Is this the right job for me?
Right.
Yeah, I would say so.
Right.
So
Right.
You brought up COVID. Let's talk
Right.
about COVID. How has it changed your work and how has it changed your sector?
Certainly it changed our work. There was a picture in the photos that flashed by of the guys loading food shelf distributions onto one of our buses. So one of the first things I did, one of the services that we provide is we have our buses, which many people know about because you see them out and about in the community. And we will, up until COVID hit, we would provide a group ride to a senior living building that wanted to go to the grocery store, or the Target store, the Arboretum. They would hire DARTS bus to take their residents rather than maintaining their own bus. So on March 13th, all rides canceled that were coming out of group facilities because the facilities were locking down. And so on March 17th or whatever that Monday was, I called all of our food shelf partners here in Dakota County and said, we have buses, we have people, what do you need? Because it's a pretty common problem that an older adult has a difficult time getting to a food shelf in the best of times to pick up their food allotment because maybe they don't drive or the food shelf isn't on a bus line, or even younger people have that same problem because it's too hard to carry all of that on public transit. So we were able to step in and help both neighbors and 360 communities and Hastings Family Services. So focused in Dakota County, helping to deliver food supports. Some of those have been able to move back to more normal distribution with volunteers, but we got through a crisis time together because of that option. So from a COVID standpoint, we did that across all of our services. What do we need to do differently? What do we need to do to keep people safe? So we can still run our circulator buses that we call loops in various communities. We just have fewer people on the bus at a time, and we have partitions between the seats. So we ask people to schedule so that we knew how many people we were picking up rather than pulling up at somebody's apartment building and having there be 7 people waiting to get on the bus and us not having the capacity. We've gotten, instead of going in a circle with those buses, we're a little more hub and spoke, where we'll pick up a group, take them to the grocery store. We'll go to the next building, pick up that group, take them where they need. So it's a little more hub and spoke, which people actually like because they're not riding the bus as long. We've also seen that it's been really important for people to have that opportunity on the bus, even though there aren't that many people. And our homemakers still have been going in and helping people clean their homes if they wanted that, taking obviously more precautions and masking and gloving up, but it's a connection. Many, many of the people that we talk to every day will say, this is the first person I've talked to this week. So that loneliness, when you ask what's the impact of COVID on the sector, we've all heard in the news about not being able to get into a long-term care building to see your loved one. What we're seeing is some people are having their loved ones come and live with them, which means now you're a caregiver 100% of the time because our respite volunteers couldn't go in to help, or they didn't want to have somebody come in the house, which we totally get, or they were locked out of seeing their loved one, or the loved one themselves. We have a woman that we deliver groceries to here in West St. Paul in one of the senior living buildings. And one day, Jan, who's been organizing the grocery deliveries, called her up, got her order, and the woman said, I can't, Jan, I feel like I'm in prison. I have not seen my son since June, and that was through plexiglass. And this was in August. And nothing, I mean, we can't get in the building either. And so Jan said the only thing she felt like she could do was when she went and picked up the grocery order, she ran over and got a box of fudgesicles and put it in the top of the bag, because she said, everyone gets a smile from a fudgesicle, and that was the best I could do to help her out. So we're seeing that isolation is really taking a toll. And I think, the holidays will be hard on all of us. It's hard on the family members, it's hard on the older adult, and I think it will be harder for a while before it gets a little bit better. I think some of these changes in how we visit people in long-term care are going to be for a long time to come. I think we're going to treat visiting people differently. I think we're going to treat cold and flu season a little bit differently. Maybe we won't say it's just the Asian tourists who put on masks when they travel. Maybe it will be us as well. So it's been difficult, and I think the bright spot in all of that is that ability to make that personal connection and really to live our mission. I think that's been really, again, to your word, an uplifting part of our jobs. We're essential. We're here every day.
I want to touch a little bit more on isolation. I've read some things about the physical impacts to us of isolation. What can you say about that?
It physically affects anyone of any age, so we don't need to put the number on our shirts, but the older you are, the worse it is. And what the study from AARP said, I think it's probably about 2 years ago, is that isolation in an older adult, so over 65, is as bad for their health as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And it's because a lot of factors. Maybe you don't go to your medical appointments on time. Maybe you aren't eating right. It's that loneliness, which turns into depression, it's all of those things kind of cascade. And you take an older person's physical well-being maybe wasn't the strongest to begin with, and you add that real physical stress to it.
Wow. That's not good, right? I feel sitting at this desk all the time.
Right.
There are days that I never go outside, not even to get the mail. I'm like, whoa, this could be a long winter, but I can go outside. I'm choosing not to go outside, right? So that's a difference, and that's
well, and we're talking about it right now with COVID. I mean, like I said, it's all ages. There's a lot of discussion about that with young people too. So one of the things that we've done with our Learning Buddies program to keep that connection is we'll do some Zooms if the classrooms allow it. So Learning Buddy volunteers normally would be in a classroom reading or helping with math or a science experiment, usually in elementary and some middle schools. And instead of being in the classrooms this year, it's a lot more of the pen pals, writing a letter once a month back and forth, which has been very rewarding for everyone involved. And then the Learning Buddies are Zooming in when they can, and they're taping book readings so that teachers have book readings that they can point those students to. And so even though they're not seeing each other, they're staying connected to Grandma Maureen, and they know Grandma Maureen because she was in their classroom last year. So it's keeping that continuity, and it's reassuring. Again, the individual who's a volunteer knows that they have a greater purpose, and the kid in the classroom knows that somebody's thinking about them. And I think it's all of those components that help us all.
For sure. I know your Reading Buddies program, and it's terrific. And it is, I don't know who gets more out of it, the older person or the elementary school or middle school student. Absolutely. I want to talk about demographics, and I said tongue in cheek that we're all aging 1 year every 365 days. What can you tell us about demographics in our county, what you're seeing, what we can look to or expect?
Well, let me pop up this little slide because a picture is always worth 1,000 words. Dakota County shared this graphic with us at a board meeting not too long ago. So Dakota County is approaching 20% of our population is age 65 and older. It's double what it was in 2010 and will be triple by 2030. So the population of older adults is growing. I think Marty Fishbach from Dakota County said 285,000 Minnesotans turn 65 every year. The stat nationally is, I love the national stat because it's got a good reminder in it. 10,000 people every day turn 65, which I like to say is a pool party in every lake in Minnesota every day of the year. Some days might be an ice skating party, but that's how to remember that stat. So there is a lot, and there are consequences to that aging. The consequences are obviously more older adults in our communities. So what can we do to help people live where they want to be living and stay engaged in their communities? So that's the consequence from a DARTS side. There's also a consequence that there might not be enough service providers to provide the services that are needed. Excuse me. So again, really critical to help people stay in the home of their choice as long as possible. So those are some of the stats. The other statistic that we see is the amount of older adults living in poverty. So the people that DARTS serves, we will serve anyone of any income level, and most of our services have what we call a sliding fee option. You pay what you can afford. But 70% of the people that we provide services to make $25,000 a year or less. So we're seeing a rise in poverty, which has its own consequences on housing and food supports.
So I knew this would happen, that we would run out of time in our conversation, but I do want to talk about how is DARTS positioned to lead in this reality as we age.
Well, I think we've touched on some of the things. It's our ability to adapt. I have been appreciative of the energy and innovation that the staff has provided. And for the negatives that we talk about from a COVID standpoint, the positive is that it forced us to do some innovation. So we're looking at how can we provide our services differently? How can we do more virtually? How can we help to enable seniors with technology? And I think as seniors continue to be, when we age to the point, Michelle, where we need the supports, we'll feel comfortable with the computer. We probably will still have computers and smartphones at our ready. And so how we age and interact will be different than the traditionalists that we're supporting right now. So I think we continue to look at what are those options. I do have a little bit of a fear, and we watch for, like people talk about, why don't you just do all electronic newsletters? Well, because we have a mailing list of 7,000 people and an email list of 900 people. And right now, especially during COVID, I think the technology is putting a separation between the haves and the have-nots, and our job is to help all. One of the other things that we are consciously trying to do is to look at ways to say, how can we support different diverse elements of our population? Dakota County is continuing to get much more diverse. It's, I think, right around 20% diverse, and it continues to grow, projected to be 25% within the next 5 years. Older adults aren't quite as diverse. It lags a little bit, but older adults also are becoming more diverse, and we need to have a representation both on our board and our staff to help us understand how to support those individuals.
Your comment about technology makes me smile. My mom did not want to text with her grandkids. She just didn't want to. She wanted to talk to them. Well, she finally realized that if I text to them, they will text me back. They don't really want to talk to her on her terms, right? So you know how rough it was those first months of her texting, but it was charming, and she's super good at it now, and she could take a picture and she could write. So yes, she's going to be connected as she continues to age, even differently because of her smartphone, which is, it gives me some peace to think about what is, what lies ahead for my folks.
Right.
Yeah. So I want to end this with, what can we do? What should we do? What's some advice for us, or your wish?
My wish is that everyone would actually think to call DARTS when they have a question, because we have answers and we can help. And so that would be one of my wishes, is that people actually call and ask for assistance. I'll share our phone number and our website, I think. So this is one of the things that you can do. Don't hesitate to call with a question. You don't have to be in Dakota County. We're really good at finding people the resources they need, whether or not it's something we personally provide. So contact us and let us know that you have questions. That's one thing you can do. Volunteer. As you mentioned, Michelle, you're a volunteer. You have shared your talents helping to rake yards. We had a great outpouring of volunteers for yard cleanup this year. We could use snow shovelers. I know Alan mentioned he could use a snow shoveler. If we get Burnsville volunteers, Alan, we're there for you. So call and offer to volunteer your services, your time. If you've got an expertise that would help us, call us. And of course, we accept donations. You can always go to our website and provide a donation. We use those funds to help supply services to anyone who needs support.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Anne. I am, again, I'm pleased to serve on your board, and I wish you a very happy Thanksgiving.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, and happy Thanksgiving to you as well.